There we go.
Hi, I'm Dr. Gregory Williams, and wait a minute, let's say it again. And
You're watching
you're
the,
watching the. Gotcha. Okay.
yeah,
Hi, I'm Dr. Gregory Williams, and you're watching the Break It Down show.
magnificent. Dr. Gregory
Cool.
Williams was the singer and trumpet player from the mighty Switch. He is now the author of the book, Switch, Debarge, Motown and Me. And welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
That's a lot of gold and platinum hanging behind you there.
I've been blessed over those years, the late '70s, early '80s. So I'm thankful for
Yeah.
all of that. Yeah.
Many years of giving us great music and marking our memories with so many great tunes.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
So you've written a book and chronicling this long history. Tell us,
Absolutely.
yeah, tell us about it.
Well, actually, it's my autobiography, but it is the biography of Switch's early days through the Motown years anyway.
Yeah.
And it's just me sharing a lot of stories, a lot of information, good, bad, and ugly on those years at Motown, more or less, and the years on the road with me and the guys.
Years on the road, those stories are rich with all kinds of the good stuff that gave you the fuel to write all those songs, about love and loss and everything. So
Absolutely.
we appreciate you writing it.
Thank you.
Tell us about your process.
Which process? The songwriting, the career, which?
You know what? Actually, so this on the Break It Down show, this series that you're a part of, thank you so much for being a part of it, is part of the Getting the Gig series. And so what we're doing on this series, that's my upcoming book's called Getting the Gig.
Okay.
The series is about, though, having these rich histories and walking through them for the milestones that are in them, because the music landscape, as much as it has changed, as much as you've seen things come and go, I think it's important to get these moments down that shows that, you had your own growth process. That's my cat.
Okay.
Your own growth process, your own creative process, and all of the things that kind of took you through your career. So
Yep.
let's start with the formation of Switch and how how you kind of got things started.
Okay. Well, actually, I am the founder, leader, creator of sorts of Switch. I had envisioned a band to exceed any band. I'd been in 6 bands prior to Switch, so I wanted to exceed that. So in picking the guys for Switch, I wanted guys that could sing, lead, and background vocals. I wanted guys that played multiple instruments, and I wanted guys that had that do or die attitude like I did. I'm gonna make it. So
Aha.
I needed that energy as well, and fortunately, ultimately, it exceeded my expectation. But the process, once we got it together, we cut a demo in Mansfield, Ohio. And I told the guys, well, Jody Sims and myself had to go to LA to shop. So once we did that, before we did that, I told the guys that we'll have a record deal in 2 weeks, if you can believe that. I don't know whether they bought it or not, but they hung with me anyway. And ironically, we met Jody and I in LA shopping around, or at least trying to get somebody to listen. We met Jermaine Jackson and his wife Hazel Gordy Jackson in an elevator. And we only
Fantastic.
had one tape. Keep in mind, we only had one tape because we ran out of money in the studio. So they gave us a tape and we would have to pay them to get the rest of them. We weren't going to give up that tape to anybody. But once we met Jermaine, we gave him the tape, asked him to give it a listen. If Jermaine hadn't listened, if he'd have lost it, if anything, we'd have been out of business. I mean, really. But he listened, he liked, him and Hazel listened and liked. And he called us the next day. So that's how the whole thing got off the ground.
Amazing.
Yeah, and he hooked us up with Barry Gordy, and we signed to Motown.
So really, it started off with a bold proclamation and really taking big swings.
Absolutely.
I mean, for
I've
you
always
to
no, you
to
go ahead.
to to have said that, hey, we're going to get a deal in 2 weeks. completely unrealistic. However,
completely.
yeah,
But bottom line is I believed it.
uh-huh.
And so I was able to convince the others without a whole lot of effort. I believed. So
Okay.
that's how it came. Yeah,
And then this fateful meeting of Jermaine Jackson, his wife Hazel in the elevator. And like you said, that's Hazel Gordy Jackson. So,
very
she
thorough.
not only was Jermaine's wife, but she had the ear of her dad, Barry Gordy.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
but the bottom line though is that you had this one tape. The first thing is that tape had to be good.
Yeah.
So you had to really put your convictions on that tape.
Yeah. We
And
thought we
it
had
all
it though.
starts with your ability to muster the guys, to choose the guys who had the conviction, to choose the guys who had the talent, to choose the guys who had the drive,
Absolutely.
and put it all together, put it on that one tape. And you had one tape.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did.
So then you hand it off, the tape, your phone number undoubtedly, and then
Absolutely.
you get a call from Jermaine, and he says what exactly?
He says, I like your tape. He said, what are you guys looking for? Immediately we brought it out. We wanted a record deal.
Uh-huh.
He says, well, I can try to set something up with my father-in-law. He says, so let's talk. And then, ironically, I didn't share this. Hazel was 9 months pregnant when we met her in that elevator.
Oh
So,
my.
yeah. So Jermaine was actually calling us from the waiting room at the hospital because the baby was coming that next day.
Okay.
So, and after he said what he said on the phone, he said, well, you guys want to talk some more? I'm at Cedar-Sinai Hospital. Fortunately, we were in Hollywood, which is where Cedar-Sinai is. So we called a bus over there and we hung out with Jermaine for hours.
Okay.
While Hazel was in labor, we hanging out with Jermaine and he's sharing stories, we're sharing stories, we're getting to know each other. And I'll tell you, this was a magical story because after maybe a couple hours of sitting there with Jermaine, who walks in but Mrs. Jackson, Latoya, Janet, and Reby. So his
Okay.
family coming in and supporting, which was really cool. So they greeted us and they treated us like family. I mean, really, it was so wonderful. These
You
people
were
act
there
like
for
they
a,
knew us.
a big life event.
Yeah, but they act like they knew us. Me and Jody, and did not. But it was warm and wonderful. Maybe an
Uh-huh.
hour after that, as we're all sitting talking and waiting and trying to see who walks in with Michael, Randy, Jackie.
Wow.
And they too joined in and treated us like family. It was wonderful. And we had about 45 minutes with them. And then me and Jody said, maybe we need to exit and let the family have it play. And so that's what we did. But from that point on, Jermaine and us started hanging out.
Yeah.
You know, he was inviting us to different things and making sure, so it was wonderful. They embraced us and it was wonderful.
Well, you had this serendipitous meeting in the elevator, and then you had this serendipitous meeting in the hospital waiting room where you became a
Sure.
part of. I mean, that's a bonding moment. You caught the whole family in a vulnerable bonding moment, and I'm sure that they were, warm in that moment, but you had to also be in the moment as well. And
Absolutely.
so, part of this loving environment, and you knew when to leave and let the
I
family
think,
have their time. And then,
yeah,
so you made a great impression. You made a great impression artistically, musically, and then just getting to know you, all of you together as people, left a great
absolutely.
impression. The creative process start, and how much was Jermaine involved in your nurturing at Motown?
Oh, totally, completely. He became our manager, him and Hazel.
Okay.
Him and Hazel, when they were in the elevator, they were there in the Motown building because they were starting a management company and they were looking at office space.
Aha.
So we wound up being their first act for management.
Wow.
Jermaine was hands on. Jermaine was hands on from our first album to our fourth at
Okay.
Motown. We wrote songs
Terrific.
together. In fact, I wrote songs with him for his album as well as him writing songs with me for ours. You
Aha.
know, and he worked with us and taught us the ropes. Basically, we weren't used to being in the studio on that big a scale, and
Yeah.
he, like I said, he just embraced us and just supported us, and we learned things from him, and learned a lot about the business from him as well.
Fantastic. Well, we'll talk little more about that in a second. But what were you in that building? They were looking for office space.
Correct.
And did that end up being the office?
On the 17th floor, they found a
17th
space on
floor
the 17th floor.
on
Yeah, and they
Sunset
started their
Boulevard.
company, Sunset Boulevard, 6255.
Yeah,
And they started their management company. They called it Young Folks.
young folks.
Yeah, and we were the
What?
first act to sign
So
to them.
Motown wasn't in that building yet. What were you
Motown
doing in
was in
that
that
building?
building.
Oh,
Yes,
they
Motown
weren't.
had been in
Okay,
that building for years.
I see. So Jermaine and Hazel were there looking for their offices and to establish
Yeah,
their company. Okay, so that was
absolutely.
already where Motown had moved.
Yeah,
For our viewers, Motown, you're in Los Angeles, and Motown, of course, was from Detroit, and they had moved to Los Angeles to that building on Sunset. But there was other
correct.
record companies in that building too.
Yeah, there was some independence in there as well.
Yeah. Okay. So that became home base for your operation.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did.
Wow.
First
Yeah,
3-4 years, absolutely. We were up there all the time.
man.
Fortunately, though, we took our meetings once the management and everything got off the ground. We may have met in the office once or twice, but the majority of our meetings throughout our time at Motown was at Berry Gordy's house. Berry
Okay.
embraced us. He didn't do that with every act on the label, but he did embrace us. And
Yeah.
we were like kind of like family, all of us. So we had our meetings at Berry's house.
Wow. Yeah. Well, Switch was something special.
Thank you.
Yeah. So then, in this process, you're just getting to know the business, but who better to get to know the business with than the Motown family and the Jacksons and Jermaine specifically? The thing about Jermaine, again, for our viewers is, of course, Michael was the center of all of the attention, but you could take any Jackson in the Jackson Five and place them in any other band, and they would be the center of most every other
Yeah.
band.
Yeah.
And so if you took, Marlon or anybody, but Jermaine specifically, he was such an amazing player, such an amazing writer. I mean, he
Was
really was a musical force on his own. So I
on
could
his own.
see where
Absolutely.
he would see your talents and say, man, I really need to get these guys and catapult them because, he wanted to make a statement of his own.
Yes, he did.
So what a
Absolutely.
way to do it.
Yeah, and fortunately, too, that was not long after his brothers had left him in '76. He and his brothers had parted in '76. They left Motown. Jermaine
Yeah.
stayed, of course.
Uh-huh.
We met Jermaine in
He married
February.
into it.
Pardon?
He married into it.
Yes, he did. Yep. And we wound up coming to Motown in May of, well, actually, we met in February of '77. So
Okay.
we became his surrogate brothers. He hung with us all the time.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah, he did. We had, when we got a house, all six of us got a house out in the Valley, San Fernando Valley area of California. Jermaine was at the house all the time. So yeah,
Great.
we had a close relationship those years.
Yeah. I mean, everything it seemed like was centered around family. I think that's why, Switch really kind of became the cookout soundtrack because you were a family band, you had a family operation, and it came
Pretty
through.
much.
So when you're gathering with your family, what, better music to have than all the family bands?
Pretty much. Yes.
Yeah. So then as you're really getting to know this business, what happened next? You go in the studio, you start the creative process, you're making, you're writing songs. Um, what was it like to get, your live performances together? Uh, talk about just kind of starting in the record business at the highest level immediately.
Yeah. Well, no. Because behind me is an album, a White Heat album. I was signed to Barry White. Me, Jody, and Bobby
Uh-huh.
were signed to we're in this group, White Heat, and we were signed to Barry White. So
Okay.
we did one record on RCA, and
Aha.
we learned how to get the business at that point, not learn the business, but get the business, because the record went nowhere. And of course, we never got any kind of royalties or anything. The record is sold since Switch exposed it, but
Uh-huh.
before that. So with that in mind, we were just trying to excel in every possible way that we could.
Yeah.
Fortunately, too, on the very first Switch album, Barry Gordy and producer Jeffrey Bowen, who produced Shaky Ground for Temptations and others. Anyway, they teamed up and called themselves the Bewley Brothers, and they had the right side of us, and Jermaine had the left side of us, and they were teaching us studio, they were teaching us production. In fact, Barry and Jeffrey co-produced my one song on that album, Bobby's two songs on that album, Jody's one song on that album. So it says Gregory Williams and the Bewley Brothers, or Bobby Debarge and the Bewley Brothers. So Barry and them were hands-on as well with us. And Jermaine, like I said, he became our brother. So we were in the studio a lot. He was teaching us while he was being creative. We were learning from observing. And the whole thing helped us become better writer, arrangers, producers. And ultimately, in the end of it, let's say, or throughout the years, it wound up developing that myself and Bobby DeBarge were to be the primary principal producers for Switch throughout the years.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
fortunately, I've been blessed to do so much since then as a writer, arranger, producer, producing Boys to Men, which is that platinum over my head. And Dr. Dre, I produced, SWV, I produced, God, quite a few acts I produced over the years. So I've been blessed as well.
Yeah. You know, those beginnings were, I mean, humble beginnings as a performer are one thing, but when you get the attention of Barry White to start off, your career there. I mean, Barry White, he was a master, and he nurtured a lot of amazing careers. So he had an
That's
eye
right.
for talent and knew what to do with it. We had just a couple weeks ago, we had Chucky Booker on the show, and he was Barry White's godson. And for all that Barry White has given us, I think a lot of people miss out on how much talent he actually
He
developed.
really had. Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
Yeah. So then, as Switch, uh, the thing about Switch being the size of the act that it is, it's a lot of personalities to to manage and wrangle. Uh, how was that, or were you even aware that that was a thing? Because
You
you
know
were
what?
in.
As I said, I'm the founder leader of the group. So a lot of the business decisions on behalf of the group fell in my lap.
Mhm.
And I just dealt with them as I wanted them to be personally. You know, I mean, humbly representing my brothers as well, but making sure that the I's were dotted, the T's were crossed, and we were growing throughout the whole process. And
Yeah.
that's what made a difference. We just learned so much, man, when it was all said and done. Years
Well,
later,
and
I
you,
became years later, I became manager of quite a few artists. But anyway,
yeah. Well, you had the vision to begin with, and the guys knew that you were to put you in a leadership position just made sense. You had the vision. You were going to take them places.
yeah, I think they believed. In fact,
Yeah.
I know they believed.
Yeah. Yeah. So then, as the group progressed, and you progressed, please continue. What came next for the band? You were having some chart success, doing some touring, I imagine.
No, no, no. And ironically, we signed with the label in 77. We did not tour until 1980, 81.
Wow.
Reason being is Motown, Barry Gordy more so than anybody, what his explanation was is I'd like for you guys to be able to go out getting 25,000 a night. And you need enough records under your belt to be able to do that without effort. I want to put you in a position I put the Jackson 5 in. Those were his words. We had to
Fantastic.
buy it. Even though me at being a group leader realizing that we were to make our money on the road. Because they're recouping everything on these records, so we're not making any money. And
Wow.
plus, we all of us were touring with different bands over the years before I pulled Switch together.
Yeah.
Except Bobby was with me always. You know, So anyway, with that, it was just that's one of the challenges of it, because after you learn how things are to be handled, then I'm fighting with them about I really wanted to get switch on tour.
Yeah.
And of course, well, no, but I tell you what, I'll increase your bi-monthly stipends, giving us more money, but that's more of his money, not our money.
Yeah.
So anyway, I had an issue with that. Finally, we got a chance to go out in 1981. I'll tell you another reason too, and this is just me being quite frank. Another reason they held us up from being on the road is Bobby Debarge wound up showing after the first year into the second year a lot of issues. He was self-destructive. And Barry and him had the insight to see if he goes out on the road.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Which ultimately happened, which is
Yeah,
exactly what happened.
They knew
And I got to
find
say
some
this,
trouble.
and I say this without vanity or anything else, because Bobby is my brother and I love him forever. But the thing of it is, I had the insight to see, not only the insight, but I was able to, we grew up together kind of from age 12. So I knew what his family home life was, and I knew what he was dealing with mentally, emotionally, and otherwise.
Yeah.
So I also knew that his scope was limited, and that if left to his own devices, he would self-destruct. And ultimately, that's what happened.
Yeah.
So that was their reason for holding us back, not based on what he told us about wanting us to go out for he wanted to get Barry Gordy and Motown wanted to get as many albums out of us as possible before we fell off. And that's what that was.
Wow. So he knew it. To some degree, you had foreseen it as well. And then as you made these records, you were just really surviving off of this stipend that you were getting.
Yeah.
And you were hungry to get out there and really kind of maximize your income potential.
And build the group.
Yeah.
Because they only know it's on records. And, and if you're only just making records, they begin to not believe that you're real, believe that you're a studio act versus a recording act, a performing act.
Right.
And then, believe it or not, that costs me today, even today. We're working, we're touring, but the fact that we did not do as much as we could have. Other bands are working a lot more who are on the same peer level as us, but they're working a lot more because they work all the time. Barcades, Confunction, Cameo, SOS Band, Brick, they're all working a lot more than Switch. So.
Yeah, I mean, from the consumer standpoint, you're right about that. I can see see what you mean about that, because those bands have always been out on the road touring, and you associate them with, oh, it's summertime, Confunction coming back to town, and that kind of thing. And Switch.
One more thing, let me tell you one more thing I felt bad. Excuse me for cutting you off.
Please.
We only went on the one tour. That tour, 1981 tour, we only went on the one tour. It lasted 5 months. And after that, the group split up. Not really. Well, Bobby went his way. Tommy followed him.
Yeah.
We went to another record label. And then Philip left before that. So the group I had Jody and Eddie remained with me all the way down. Got new members and went and did another record. It failed, whatever. So that it hurt us in the long run, is my point.
Yeah, it sure did. Wow. So then in your that is mind-blowing. One tour for 4 months.
Yep. That's it.
That is something else. So when the band sort of splintered and you went to another label, where did you go?
Total Experience Records, home of the Gap Band. And Yarborough and People Don't Stop the Music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay. And then Bobby and Tommy went to like you said, Bobby splintered off, Tommy followed him, and they sort of had to mentor their younger siblings as well.
A lot of people say that, but they did not necessarily. Because at that point in time, and I'm just being quite frank and open about it, at that point in time, Bobby's drug life was so dominant. Motown gave him his own deal. After Switch, Motown gave him his own record deal, but he wound up being so drugged out at the time he couldn't fulfill it.
Wow.
And so Tommy got lost in the sauce. Now, with reference to them mentoring their brothers and sisters, Yeah, they were in the studio with them from time to time, but not on a consistent level.
Yeah.
Not as it sounds. Everybody says they meant it. That's how they write it up. Not true. Not true.
Wow. Yeah.
In fact, believe it or not, I had more of a hands-on with Chico, mentoring and getting Chico off the ground than Bobby
Hmm.
did with his other siblings.
Wow. Well, you know what? That is a bit of a surprise to hear, but knowing, sort of the trajectory of your career and the trajectory of his, unfortunately, it's easy to believe.
Yeah.
If I were Chico or anybody else, I would get a lot more confidence from your tutelage, you know, just just knowing how you handle the business. How was you said that you had known each other since you were about 12 years old, and you were aware of how his family life is, and there was a bit of chaos there. Uh, what Tell us about your family life and your musical upbringing, and how you got into nurturing your talents.
You know what? I started in a Christmas play at 5 years old, and I sang in a Christmas play.
Okay.
Okay, but and people ask me even from the early days and even now, what was my musical influences? My
Uh-huh.
dad played saxophone, more so jazz than anything, but he played sax. In fact, he played with Al Green, who's also from my hometown of Grand Rapids, Michigan. He
Okay.
was supposed to leave with Al, but he decided to stay and take care of his family. Okay,
Mm,
my mom sang in the church. So, and she was the lead vocalist as well. So, my mom came from a family she had 12 other siblings, and each one of them played an instrument and sang. At least the first nine did. The last two didn't.
okay.
The last two didn't play music. But those were my influences. I'm hearing everybody could sing and everybody played an instrument, different ones from violin to flute to trombone to trumpet.
Yeah.
But I'm growing up under these influences. And my mom was 19 when I was born. So her siblings became my siblings, kind of, sort of.
I see.
They're my uncles and aunts biologically, but, I grew up with
Mhm.
all of them and they influenced me. I'm the only one who pursued a career,
Wow.
but but I knew at age 6 I was going to do this. I proclaimed it at 6 years old. I'm going to be an entertainer. At age 9, I was a trumpet player and I had my own little band called the Hot Five. And I had
Aha.
two trombone players, two saxophone players, and me on trumpet.
Fantastic.
So it was embedded in me to do music my whole life. And I was blessed to stay on course throughout. I had some oops and some maybes, but I didn't fall into a drug life. I didn't fall into a criminal life. I stayed on course.
Yeah.
And fortunately, that's what allowed me to think that I could get a record deal in 2 weeks.
Uh-huh. And and really take it somewhere good. Your um your upbringing, though, everybody making music around you, it's just, it's really just kind of like breathing in and out. So making
Truly,
music is just a natural thing. It wasn't something that you had to force.
not at all.
And then being around a nurturing environment like that gives you a little bit of competition because you're playing the trumpet, but you got to be good. If everybody else is playing, you want to play, you want anybody to pay attention to you, got to be good.
All right.
Yeah.
And according to elders, I was.
So
Yeah.
that, well, time told. So the upbringing in Grand Rapids, Michigan. The other thing about Grand Rapids is it's cold. And when it's cold, stay inside and make some music. Sometimes you go outside and play, but other times it's
All
cold,
right.
so you might as well stay
All
inside and
right.
play. Yeah.
Yeah.
The fact that you had the Hot Five and you had two trombone players, you know, a, a, a horn section nowadays starts with a trumpet and usually a saxophone. And
Right.
so if I walk in and I see a trombone on the bandstand, I start thinking, oh boy, this is going to be serious,
Yeah.
you know. Um, but you had two trombones in a young band, so
I did.
that says something about the musical environment.
Yeah, we were like 9, 10 years old, all in grade
Wow.
school. And we did some plays and some school programs and stuff. they thought enough of us then to let us do them. So it was great.
Do you think that that sort of thing, that sort of creativity in a child could flourish now like it did back then? You know, they just don't have the concentration in
They don't. But with the right person, the right nurturing, the right family support,
the right
yeah, I
family.
think it
Yeah.
can happen. I think it does
Oh,
happen. You know, it's much less than when I was there. For
yeah.
example, you know, when I was growing up and I used to go to jam sessions as a teenager, there might be about 20 guys that wanted to sit in and play on stage.
Yeah.
Whereas now, from what I see in certain situations, there may be two, maybe three guys working together with
Yeah.
machines around them and stuff like
Right.
that. So it's a vast difference from, and
Uh,
now we have AI taking the place of some of the band members. So I don't know where it's going next.
yeah, it's hard to say.
Yeah,
It's hard to
truly.
say. And it's it really makes it puts meaning behind the necessity of really embracing that good stuff that, you know, that we have from the days gone by, because you're right, you can't find 20 guys to put a jam session together.
No, not like it used to be. Not at all.
Yeah. And the competition among, you know, among musicians to be the best band. It's like, you know, two guys working together with a bunch of machines, but there probably is only another two guys somewhere else, maybe the next town over, and all that competition's gone.
Right. Right.
So
Which kind of stifles. Go ahead.
yeah, it's too bad. So now moving forward though, as your career progressed, um, you know, Switch was now pretty much yours. And you know, what happened then? Because there's a lot of people who have been in Switch. You know, you've had a lot of people that you brought along the
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
And it really needed to be that because, you know, because Bobby and Tommy left, like you said, and the band kind of splintered. You got a new record deal. You know, you really had to keep the band alive.
I fought to do that over the
Yeah.
years. Yes. I didn't know
Wow.
no better after a while.
Your book though, let's talk about writing process for your book, because at some point, you know, you'd amassed all of these great stories and memories and stuff, and you had to put them down. Is that something that you've been doing along the way? Have you always been you've always been a writer of song? Have you always been a writer though?
No, I've always loved English and I've always loved to read. And you
Okay.
know, I was snatched when I signed with Barry White at 19 years old. I was snatched out of college, and I
Oh,
always wanted to go back. It was always important to me to go back. Well, I
okay.
couldn't get back for I can't even tell you how many years. I got back. I think I was 50 years old when I finally went back to school. Okay, but I did get my degree in English.
Uh-huh.
And I had a professor who wound up being a friend because, ironically, he was only a few years older than me. In fact, he was younger than me. What am I talking about? A few years younger than me, and he wound up being from the Grand Rapids area as well. And this was in
Wow.
California when I met him. So
Okay.
anyway, he encouraged me. He said, "Greg," he said, "all you've done," he said, "you need to write a book. You need to write a book." This was like, what year was that? I think 2005 or whatever. So he got me into it, and he kept, "You writing? Are you writing?" You know, I was in his English class, and then we'd get together and sit down, and he'd record me talking, and he'd give me the recordings, and that's what spurred me on. And it took at least 7 years for me to write the thing because I was taking my
Wow.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was working and managing acts. I think I was managing El Debarge most of those years. Anyway, and so I took my time though. I took my time. I'd write a little bit here, a little bit here, and finally, when in 2019, I said, "Enough already, Gregory. Put the darn thing out. Publish the book."
Uh,
I had okay. My book is 456 pages. I
whew.
had over, I had over 700 and something pages. So now that left me 180 for the second book, which I am working on when I feel it, when the spirit moves me. So, but it took me 7 years to write that book, and a lot of memories. I got a lot off my chest. It was very cathartic in a way, the majority of it, because it was a lot to get off my chest. As I said, the good, bad, and ugly, about my family, who I came from, about my years with Motown, about my years with the Debarge family. All of this stuff was important for me to tell.
Yeah.
And still, not to be giving it away, and still the book ends when we left Motown. So I've got
Wow.
a lot to tell after that. I've done a lot of living since that point.
A lot of living, a lot of cultivating of other people's talents, all kinds of stuff. I mean, you switched
Absolutely.
into a mentor role in the business. And so what about 7 years, a 7 year process of writing a book, which really is it's really like an incubator process, if you
Yeah.
think about it. you
Okay.
you were slow cooking that book.
I was. I definitely was.
Fantastic. Yeah. And then tell us about you were awarded an honorary doctorate in the study of humanities.
Yes.
How did this is interesting because you went back to school at age 50, which is a hey, it's never too late story.
Right.
And then,
Yeah. And I graduated at 55.
okay, graduated from college at age 55. And then, how were you awarded this honorary doctorate?
Well, at the actual college that sent it to me, the dean of that college is a Switch fan.
Ha ha.
Yeah. And she thought highly enough to communicate with me to see if I would be interested in it and learn more about me. Then
Yeah.
she learned about my book.
Uh-huh.
Then she learned about the different years that I spent. And she said it would be befitting for us to honor you in this way.
Yeah.
And so, of course, I was glad to accept it.
Yeah. I mean, it's more than just when people receive an honorary doc. We had somebody on earlier this week who received an honorary doctorate in music. It was Terry Lynn Carrington, and
Yes,
that
she should.
that degree conveys not a traditional course of study where somebody says you have to hit these milestones, but a life of study where you
That's right.
made your own milestones.
Yep,
And so
absolutely.
it, I'm sure it had everything to do with not only your career and your contribution through Switch that she loved, but when then she found out that you were also an author and that you had your own educational pursuits. I mean, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, yeah. She waited. She waited a lot. She shared a lot of her thoughts with me in
Uh-huh.
getting me to go along. But I thought it was valuable for me to have it, and thankful, to be honest with you, man, because I am 72 years old and I continue to get flowers,
Yeah.
and I'm so thankful. For example, the award right behind my head,
Uh-huh.
that award I picked up a month ago. That's ASCAP's top pop writer of 2026.
Wow.
No lie. In fact, and I'm headed back to LA in 2 weeks on the 25th to pick up another award as ASCAP's top R&B writer, or one of ASCAP's top R&B songwriters of 2026 as well. And those are for the song, the group. Well, it's originally "I Call Your Name" by Switch, which Bobby Debarge and I wrote back in 1980, I think,
Uh-huh.
79, I'm sure. But anyway, SZA and Kendrick Lamar sampled it, and they made a whole song based on it, and that's what it is. They sold what? I mean, they had over 22 million streams on the
Wow.
one song. So now I go
Yeah.
back and get the second award. And as I said, I continue to get gifts of sorts. I like to think I earned them, but still I'm humbled by the fact that I get them, because it doesn't have to be me. It could have been anybody,
Yeah.
or somebody else, better yet. Not anybody. Couldn't have been anybody. But I'm
Well,
thankful for it all.
I admire that that's the way that you see it. From an outsider's perspective, you wrote classics, and their recognition of those classics and their further exploitation of those classics. And I don't mean that in a negative
No,
sense. I
no,
mean,
no. I get you.
they took that inspiration and they said, we want to update this, but they chose that piece of work. to base their new work on, and you know, so it is all deserved and fantastic to see that, you know, because a lot of artists, especially looking back on a band like Switch, because like you said, you don't, you know, you don't get the recognition as a legacy act on tour that all those bands that have been touring the whole time
Right.
get. And so to win an
Yeah.
ASCAP award because of you know, because of the creation of that inspiration, uh, that to me is it's great to see.
It says a lot. It does say a
Yeah,
lot.
yeah, sure
And again,
does.
I'm humbled by it. I'm thankful for it.
Yeah.
You know, and I'll share this with you too. My whole life, I've always been a what's next guy. And what that means is I will do what I can. I'll do everything I'm supposed to. I don't play with people's time. I do not play with people's work. I deliver. And once I've delivered, what's next? And I move on to something else and I keep
Uh-huh.
going. Over the years, which also has to do with me receiving the honorary doctorate, is that I was an associate editor and art director for Right On Magazine's subsidiary magazine, Sisters in Style, for about 8 years. So I did a lot of photo shoots and interviews and had an advice column called Ask a Man and things like that. And all these things they were exposed to when they talked to me about the honorary doctorate degree. So,
I see.
as I said, I'm a what's next kind of guy. Even now,
Yeah,
even at 72 years old, what can I do today that's going to have impact? And once I'm done with it, what's next?
yeah. You really have been a writer the whole time, though.
Yeah, truly,
Yeah.
truly.
So the book, uh, did it achieve what you wanted it to achieve?
Yeah, it
As,
did.
I mean, as
It
far as the
definitely did.
catharsis and all of that stuff.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, and
Okay,
it wasn't necessarily the financial rewards have been decent as well, but
that's good to hear.
yeah, but for people to read my book and repeat back to me some of my stories, or repeat back what made them laugh, and repeat back what made them cry, and what touched them in a certain way, that is worth anything. That's worth everything. Meaning somebody heard my story, somebody heard what I got to say about this life, you know, and appreciated it.
Yeah.
And another thing is, like even on Amazon, the books on Amazon,
Mhm.
Amazon has this review system. Out of 25 reviews on my book, there's more now, but out of 25 reviews on my book, only two of them were bad. And when I
Oh,
think about that, I said, well, they had the right to have an opinion. They bought the book. As long as they paid for their the right to have an opinion, it's okay with me,
yeah.
whether I
Also,
agree or disagree. So anyway,
well, and 2 out of 25, usually, you know, when somebody is critical of somebody's work, it's more a reflection of their own self than it is on the
absolutely,
work, you know.
absolutely,
So I like to sometimes read those negative reviews and see, you know, what nugget of wisdom is in this negative review that they didn't
that's
even
right.
realize they were dropping, you know.
Yep,
The
that's right.
the success, all the different successes of the first book, I imagine are contributing to your desire to get on that second book at some point
Yeah, to complete it, not get on it, but complete it
to
because it's
complete it.
there. Yeah,
Okay. So yeah, the 700 pages that you had originally, you cooked down, you released the first book, but a lot of that 700 pages survived and is into the second book.
absolutely.
Wow.
And there's some stories in there. My God,
Mhm.
there's some stories in there. I think there's more stories in the second book than the first one. That's why I got to get the darn thing done.
Okay then.
Yeah.
Well, you know, you had an advice column. Is there a how-to somewhere hidden in that 700 pages that you can extract out that, you know, is a little less obvious in there? Because I'm sure, you know, whenever you read somebody's memoir, there's a whole lot of wisdom written in that memoir, but it's not necessarily written as instruction. Do you think there's a
No, in
book
fact,
in you that says, here's how you do it, like Dr. Gregory Williams?
not only that, I've got a friend now who's setting me up my own TikTok so I can do just that to
Okay.
advise and do things. I'll tell you, in this book, it's not as much of how to as how I did it.
Yeah.
So, but there is information in there. There is educational information in there based on it. You know, because I talk about things. I mean, uh, for example, Motown did something underhanded in a meeting. They set up a
Hmm.
meeting and they did something underhanded uh, uh, to switch.
A record
And
company did something underhanded? Do tell.
absolutely. Yep. And I wrote about it. I had to write about it. And I know some people that are reading that don't want to hear it, but
uh,
it was the truth. And I took the time to share it. So I say that to coincide with the how to. Yeah, that's more of a how not to, that
okay.
part. But there's just some how to's in there. But again, mostly it's how I did it.
Yeah. And the how not to's are crucially important as well. So
Absolutely.
get the book on Amazon, everybody. How about an audio book? I mean, you're at age
Believe it or not,
72, your voice is still golden.
man, I'm up to chapter 17 with it. I've been just taking my this week time, but I'm
Okay,
up to
good.
chapter 17 with that, and I'm
Yeah.
trying to find a voice clone
Uh-huh.
to see if it can be close enough for it to finish the story with my voice.
Wow.
I'm
Uh-huh.
looking for it now. In fact, there's something that I just got to try now. But yeah, that
It,
audiobook is definitely coming. If I have to sit my butt back down in it and spend as many hours as I already did.
is the
So
production process for the audiobook more grueling than you want it to be? Is that what it is?
yeah, actually tedious. Yeah, it is somewhat. It is.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I got a studio downstairs.
Uh-huh.
First class studio downstairs, so I can go in there and sit when I feel it. When the spirit moves me, I can go in there and do it. But it is. It's an effort. It's definitely
Yeah.
an effort. So that's why I'm
Wow.
hoping to see this other software works. With all this AI going on, maybe I'll find a software that really captures my voice and then
Uh-huh.
can read the rest of the book. But if not, I'll do it myself.
Okay. I think when it comes to your voice and the capture of your voice, like you said, AI, there's a whole lot of AI doing things, and some of it is pretty good.
Yeah,
Uh, but hearing your authentic voice is really something, and I think delivery of those stories in that voice, something we'd all look forward to.
I, yeah, I think that would work. I really do. I mean, like I said, I'm up to halfway through the book pretty much. So
Okay.
we'll see what happens.
So, musically speaking, what's next?
Me and the guys, believe it or not, are in the process now of corralling our big hits so we can re-record them so that we can own the license of them.
Okay.
Okay. But other than that, we do have, in fact, the guy that I have in for Bobby, his name's Keely Nixon. He's one of the most prolific songwriters I ever heard and dealt with in my entire life. So
Wow.
he and I have written a few things that we think are his. So we're going to release them along with an EP of some of the other things that, like remake of "I Call Your Name, They'll Never Be," "I Want to Be Closer," and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
yeah, we're working on that while we're still trying to get out and do. I've got a residency in Las Vegas on the table, so hopefully that works and keep it moving.
That would be great.
Yeah,
I think a residency, would be great for Switch because you can get, we can all get our folks together, come visit, see the residency. It's
absolutely.
different than just try to catch you on the road.
Right, right.
A little more
Yeah, I think it
centralized.
would work. Well, I'm entertaining it now. Hopefully we'll come up with a deal for both of us and it makes sense.
Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I want to say it has been my pleasure, my honor today to have on the Break It Down show the author of Switch, Debarge, Motown and Me, and also the songwriter, the band leader of a band that is legendary and has been such a part of so many of our histories and our good times. and provided the music for dances and proms, and who knows how many children were conceived because of the inspirations of the great Dr. Gregory Williams and Switch. And I
Thank
want to
you.
extend also, I'm in the Bay Area, and I want to say that if you're coming out here and you're doing anything promotionally or whatever you're doing, I'm volunteering myself. The answer is yes. If you need boots on the ground out here in the Bay Area, you got them.
Got you. Thank you very much, Al. Yeah, actually, I'm in talks with Yoshi's to come back. We've done Yoshi's in Oakland the past 3 years. So I'm
Yeah,
in talks about us coming back before summer's over. So hopefully that works out.
I
Yeah,
absolutely will, excuse me, pound the pavement and make sure that we fill up Yoshi's to come and see you and Switch there.
absolutely, John. I'll keep that in mind. And let me say something. I wanted to share something else too
Oh,
about the
please.
book. Uh, the book can be purchased on Amazon, of course, but it's even in stores. It's in Borders and Barnes and Nobles and quite a few others. But the main thing is, if you go to our website, www.switchentertainmentworld.com, the book's on sale there, but there's so much there. Every one of our albums, so many videos of us live, the history of yesterday, what our lineup of the shows that we're doing, and things like that. So there's a wealth of information. If you're interested in Switch at all, there's a wealth of information on that website. But again, like I said, you can get the book. And what's the best part of that is if you get it there, I can sign it for you before it's sent.
Fantastic.
So I just wanted to add that.
SwitchEntertainmentWorld.com, everybody.
That's it. That's
That's
it.
the that's the central location for all things Switch and to keep in
Thank you.
best touch with everything that you're doing, and hopefully to come see you when you come to town, wherever that is.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Gregory Williams.
John, thank you so much. I've definitely enjoyed this.
Thank you.
So